Hi everyone, yesterday, yes! Tano here, the internet's most checking the microphone is on nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Parquet Courts album, Wide Awake. This is the latest full-length album from Brooklyn rock band Parquet Courts, who have been steadily dropping album after album, EP after EP since 2011, sliding back and forth in every one of their track lists effortlessly, from indie rock to art punk to post-punk and garage rock and experimental rock. And despite a pretty strong devotion to a handful of rock subgenres, I've had varying and strong reactions to pretty much every record Parquet Courts has put out so far. Of course, though, I am on the edge of my seat looking forward to their latest over here, especially since their last album, Human Performance, I think is easily one of their best. The closest the band has come thus far, I think, to releasing a truly fantastic record. I also loved the incredibly smart and groovy teasers to this new album over here, like Wide Awake and Had to Start a Fight. The band somehow even won over Ellen doing a performance of the song Wide Awake on her daytime television show, which I guess is kind of crazy, and it's just great to see that Parquet Courts' peak of relevancy is coinciding with what I think is their best album, and for a myriad of reasons. The performances on this thing are exciting, tight, intense, and lively. The production is really organic and vibrant. The record comes off sounding like an in-the-moment studio session, but has enough bells and whistles and interesting touches of effects and overdubs to keep the sound interesting and deep. Thirdly, I think it can be argued that this is Parquet Courts' best crop of songs yet. Verses are great, choruses pop, and across the length of the entire album there is an extreme lyrical focus on socio-political issues. Which, I mean, it's 2018, who isn't getting political in the age of Trump? But there's actually a lot of smart commentary on this album about wealth disparity and violence, the normalization of our increasingly toxic political climate, and some of the lyrics here go beyond the sloganeering you typically get out of pop songs that try to go political and actually delve into political philosophy. Like on the opening track, Total Football, where you will hear the band shouting that collectivism and autonomy are not mutually exclusive, which, I mean, because it's not, you can bargain for your own rights as a collective while maintaining your personal freedom. The follow-up line to that is incredibly sharp, and also the fuck Tom Brady at the end is a very nice touch. You know, because of the whole Total Football theme illustrated earlier in the track. It's a very interesting intro. These are not points of view that are typically addressed in punk songs, even in bands where some of the members have bachelor's degrees. And the fourth thing I'll say about this record is that across the track list, it has an incredible flow. It's pretty much one well-worded art punk rager after another, with seamless transitions and tastefully executed cool-down moments. And I mean, it's just highlight after highlight after highlight. The song Violence features markedly improved drumming and bass right from the get-go, which, if there's one huge improvement on this record from any Parquet Courts album previous, it's that, man, like the percussion, the grooves, those bass lines, they're spectacular. The instrumental on this cut sounds like a really solid piece of 70s instrumental rock, with a strong funk influence and some very serious and bright organs popping in, which pull off a kind of psychedelic solo in the last leg of the song. And even though there is that big funk rock influence on this track, there are some very jagged, noisy, abrasive guitars and shouty lead vocals which lead that sound, lead that style into a very punk conclusion. I love the lyrics on this track, just kind of going in depth about the societal numbness that we feel toward the violence, the increasing violence that we're kind of finding ourselves in the midst of. I mean, I feel like this song is incredibly apt in the wake of what just happened in Santa Fe, or whatever happened at the latest school shooting at the time of you watching this video, because let's face it, our politicians are literally doing nothing about this problem. The song Before the Water Gets Too High is a great transition out of this track, much more dejected, nowhere near as intense. It really contrasts the previous song by feeling so futile and defeated. I love the nimble bass line, the relaxed but very crisp drums, the cheap Casio chords, and the chilling lyrics are all about things getting so bad that it may get to a point where it affects the rich. Does it need to get to that point? Almost Had to Start a Fight is an incredible two-parter with super tight syncopated guitars, drums, and vocals. And these opening words kind of being stuttered or repeated at the start of each line, really kind of adding to the tension of the track. I mean, the song is literally about what it's kind of titled after, and there's a sense of real panic in the song as a result of that. It feels like being forced in the midst of a fight or flight decision. The song transitions out out of these intense and syncopated guitar passages into something a little bit more laid back, but then you're catching lyrics about being in a brutal invention or a chaos dimension. I also love the transition into the second leg of the track, In and Out of Patience, which is an intense driving rock tune with very fun, very catchy guitar leads and ascending vocals. It really kind of calls back to bands like the Modern Lovers. We get another great transition into the song Freebird 2, which is another more introspective moment in the midst of all of this political unrest on the album, with, I believe, Andrew Savage singing over some kind of quirky and a little tongue-in-cheek classic rock-ish organ chords about growing older and kind of waxing poetic about his past and slowly kind of growing into his own point of view, identity. The song Normalization is as aggressive as it is chilling. I think it's in a similar conceptual vein to the song Violence earlier in the track list, but much more bombastic and in your face. There's a weird psychedelic funk breakdown in the midst of the song too. The song feels a bit more abstract and big picture from a lyrical standpoint as well. Then we have the title track, which is supremely funky. In a way reminds me of what I loved so much about LCD Sound System in the mid-2000s. It's just really eccentric, thoughtful, punky dance music whose lyrics kind of state the album's MO of, I guess, being wide awake, being aware, kind of keeping up this pace of awareness. It's kind of like the post-punk equivalent of being woke. The song Death Will Bring Change helps bring the album closer to its finish and is an incredibly haunting moment on the album. Kind of takes a bit of an old school psych rock tone. It's a little Doors-ish. Features some very dramatic, dreary guitar chords strummed in a very loose way, enhanced by these eerie children choruses singing "Death will bring change," essentially predicting things will alter as this new generation comes into adulthood and replaces the old guard. The band ends things on a somewhat lighter note on the track Tenderness, with these carefree rhythm guitars and kind of jaunty saloon piano. The lyrics, again, kind of pushing toward these themes for change in the future, which, I mean, if you read into the first verse of this track, it's actually really poetic, beautifully so. And I think it's a moment on the album where the band and even me myself, for a long time now, have kind of come to terms with the fact that unfortunately, political change and societal change rarely comes as a result of just kind of flipping people's minds and ideas right then and there. Usually it comes with generations of people over time kind of learning from their mistakes and kind of replacing the older people and then enacting the societal norms and standards they now want to enact as according to how they perceive the world. So that is certainly part of it. But again, the song is also making a deep reference to Tenderness, which it is titled after, with the band kind of crossing their fingers artistically for maybe more tenderness around the corner in the world's future, with the song's closing lines referring to tenderness itself almost as a drug, something that the band's lead singer needs a fix of. There were a few spots on the record that lulled for me just a little bit. I thought the vocal performance on the track Back to Earth was a little too awkward. I loved the chord progression, I loved the slow pacing, I loved how dramatic and melodic the track was. I don't know if it was a vocal range thing or a tempo thing, but just the singing on it just felt a little fumbly. And Mardi Gras Beads, even though I do like the tune of that track quite a bit, the reverb on there really washes it out just a bit too much, which is one of the things that I like generally about the other songs on here, that they're so dry, that they're so tangible, that you really feel a lot of the instrumentation. But outside of that, I mean, this record is so fucking great and on point. The songs, the recording, the performances. The playing is noticeably better than that of any Parquet Courts record so far. This record is certainly more lyrically intriguing than a lot of the band's previous records as well. And I feel like they did a great job of making some interesting artistic statements on some very, very, very difficult topics. I'm feeling a light to decent 9 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you could check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Parquet Courts, forever.